The Vorthak Empire had ruled the galaxy for over 3,000 years. Their massive warships cast shadows across star systems, and their very name made entire civilizations surrender without firing a single shot. Standing 12 feet tall with razor-sharp claws, armor-plated skin, and 4 powerful arms, they were evolution's perfect killing machines. Their homeworld of Cathara was a nightmare of volcanic peaks and acid rain, where only the strongest survived to adulthood. Emperor Zexthai stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Devourer, watching another planet fall to his forces. The blue-green world below had once housed the Kellian Republic, a proud species of bird-like creatures who thought their advanced technology could protect them. They were wrong. Within 6 hours, every major city was burning, and their government had sent desperate surrender signals. "Another pathetic species added to our empire," Zexthai growled to his war commander, Vekthar. "How many does this make?" 473 conquered species, my lord," Vekthar replied, his 4 arms moving across holographic displays. "The galaxy trembles before us, as it should." The Vorthak had built their empire on fear and overwhelming force. They didn't negotiate or trade like other civilizations. They simply arrived, demonstrated their power, and demanded submission. Those who refused were crushed completely. Those who submitted became slave colonies, providing resources and tribute to fuel the ever-expanding empire. "Sir, we're receiving a priority message from the Outer Rim Scouts," announced a communications officer. Zexthai's red eyes narrowed. "Display it." A hologram flickered to life, showing a nervous-looking Vorthak scout captain. "My lord, we've discovered a new species in the Sol system. They call themselves humans. Initial scans show they're confined to a single planet, primitive by our standards. No faster than light travel, basic energy weapons, divided into multiple warring factions." The Emperor laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "Humans? What kind of ridiculous name is that? How primitive are we talking about?" "They still use chemical propulsion for space travel, my lord. Their most advanced weapons appear to be nuclear devices, though they seem reluctant to use them. They've only achieved limited space colonization on their moon and nearby planets." Vekthar studied the data flowing across his screens. "Their planet shows signs of extensive warfare throughout history. They appear to be a naturally aggressive species, but their technology is at least 500 years behind ours." "Perfect," Zexthai said, his claws clicking against the metal railing. "We'll make an example of them. Send the 4th Fleet to their system. I want them to see our power and understand their place in the universe." The scout captain shifted uncomfortably. "My lord, there's something unusual about these humans. Our behavioral analysts have been studying their communication signals and cultural data. They seem to have an odd relationship with conflict." "Explain." "They fight constantly among themselves, but they also create extensive fictional media about fighting against impossible odds. Stories where small groups defeat massive enemies, where individuals sacrifice themselves for others. It's different from most species we've encountered." Zexthar dismissed this with a wave. "Primitive fantasy. Every weak species tells itself stories about being brave. It means nothing when faced with real power." "Agreed," the Emperor said. "Deploy the 4th Fleet. I want a standard conquest protocol. Destroy one of their major population centers to demonstrate our capabilities, then demand their surrender. This should be over within days." Fleet Admiral Gorthak received his orders with enthusiasm. The 4th Fleet consisted of 50 massive dreadnoughts, each one capable of reducing a planet's surface to molten rock. As they jumped into the Sol system 3 weeks later, Gorthak was already planning which human city would serve as the best example. The first thing that surprised him was how quickly the humans detected their arrival. Within minutes of dropping out of faster-than-light travel, every human military installation was broadcasting warning signals. Their primitive radar and communication systems were actually more sophisticated than expected. "Admiral, we're receiving multiple transmission attempts from the planet," his communications officer reported. "Let me hear them," Gorthak commanded. A dozen different human voices filled the bridge, speaking in various languages. The universal translator worked overtime to convert their words. "Unknown vessels, this is Earth Defense Command. Please identify yourselves and state your intentions." "Alien ships, we come in peace. We wish to establish diplomatic contact." "This is the United Nations Security Council. We request immediate communication with your commanding officer." Gorthak found their attempts at diplomacy amusing. "Open a channel to their entire planet. I want every human to hear this." The transmission array powered up, and Gorthak's image was broadcast across every human communication network on Earth. From television screens to computer monitors to military command centers, billions of humans suddenly found themselves staring at the face of their would-be conqueror. "Primitive species of the third planet," Gorthak began, his voice echoing with authority. "I am Fleet Admiral Gorthak of the Vorthak Empire. Your world now falls under our dominion. You will cease all military activities and prepare for immediate surrender. To demonstrate our power and your helplessness, we will now destroy one of your population centers. After you have witnessed our strength, your leaders will submit unconditionally." The reaction from Earth was immediate and chaotic. Panic spread through major cities as people tried to evacuate. Military forces around the world went to maximum alert. But something else happened that Gorthak hadn't expected. Instead of pure terror, many humans seemed to become angry. "Admiral, we're detecting massive increases in military activity across the planet," his tactical officer reported. "They're not running. They're mobilizing." "Mobilizing?" Gorthak laughed. "With what? Their chemical rockets and primitive missiles? Target their largest population center and prepare to fire." But as the Vorthak fleet moved into position, something unprecedented happened. Every human military force on the planet began launching everything they had. Not at each other, as they had been doing for centuries, but at the alien fleet hanging in their sky. Thousands of missiles rose from Earth's surface. Nuclear submarines surfaced and added their firepower to the barrage. Military satellites that had been designed to fight other humans suddenly found a new target. Every nation on Earth, even those that had been at war just hours before, directed their weapons at the Vorthak ships. The sight was so unexpected that Gorthak actually paused his attack order. "What are they doing? This is suicide." The first wave of human weapons reached the outer edge of his fleet. The Vorthak shields absorbed the impacts easily, but the humans kept firing. Wave after wave of missiles, each one pushing their primitive technology to its absolute limits. "Sir, their nuclear weapons are actually more powerful than our initial estimates suggested," the tactical officer said with growing concern. "Impossible. Our shields can handle anything they throw at us." But as the bombardment continued, something strange began to happen. The humans weren't just throwing everything they had at the Vorthak fleet. They were learning. Each wave of attacks was more coordinated than the last. They were analyzing the shield patterns, adjusting their targeting, and sharing data across their entire planet in real time. "Admiral, I'm reading some kind of massive energy buildup on the planet's surface, multiple locations." Gorthak studied the readings with growing unease. "What are they powering up?" The answer came in the form of 6 massive particle beam weapons that suddenly blazed to life from hidden locations around Earth. The beams struck 3 of Gorthak's outer destroyers, and to his shock, the shields buckled under the assault. "How is this possible?" he roared. "Our intelligence said they barely had space travel." His science officer was frantically analyzing the beam weapons. "Sir, these weapons are using principles we've never seen before. They're somehow rotating the particle frequency in real time, finding resonance gaps in our shield matrices. That's impossible. No primitive species could develop such technology. But even as he spoke, more beam weapons were coming online across Earth's surface. The humans had apparently been hiding their most advanced technology, waiting for the right moment to reveal it. "Sir, we need to either withdraw or commit to full planetary bombardment," Vecthar advised through the communication link. "These humans are not behaving like any species we've conquered before." Gorthak's pride warred with his growing concern. The Vorthak Empire had never retreated from a primitive world. But they had also never encountered anything quite like this. On Earth's surface, in military command centers around the world, human leaders were making decisions that would echo through history. General Sarah Chen stared at the tactical displays showing the alien fleet and felt a cold determination settle over her. "This is it," she announced to the Joint Chiefs of Staff. "Every simulation, every war game, every strategy we've ever developed was preparation for this moment. An enemy that threatens all of humanity." "The nuclear option is ready," Admiral Roberts reported. "Every submarine, every silo, every bomber. We can saturate their fleet with everything we have." "Not yet," General Chen said. "We need to learn more about their capabilities. Keep hitting them with conventional weapons. Force them to show us what they can really do." Meanwhile, in laboratories and research facilities across the planet, human scientists were working with desperate intensity. Dr. James Park stared at the energy readings from the alien ships and felt a surge of excitement despite the circumstances. "They're using a standard deflector shield technology," he called out to his team. "It's more advanced than ours, but it operates on principles we understand. If we can modulate our particle beams to match their shield frequency rotation—" "You're talking about technology we haven't even finished testing," Dr. Maria Santos protested. "Then we better finish testing it fast," Park replied, his fingers flying over the keyboard. "Because if we don't, there won't be anyone left to test anything." Above Earth's atmosphere, Admiral Gorthak found himself in the unprecedented position of being surprised by a primitive species. 3 of his ships had sustained actual damage from human weapons. His tactical officers were reporting that the humans seemed to be adapting to Vorthak technology in real time. "Sir, recommend we demonstrate our full power immediately," his weapons officer suggested. "If we crack their planet's surface, they'll stop this futile resistance." Gorthak considered this. The standard protocol was simple: demonstrate overwhelming force, accept surrender, establish control. But something about these humans made him hesitate. They weren't behaving like any conquered species in Vorthak history. "Prepare the planet crackers," he finally ordered. "But target an uninhabited area first. Let them see what real power looks like." The massive dreadnought's main weapon began to charge, drawing power from its fusion cores. The planet cracker was designed to split continents and boil oceans. No species had ever continued fighting after witnessing its power, but as the weapon charged, every human military installation on Earth detected the energy buildup. And instead of panic, instead of surrender, the response was immediate and coordinated. Every human weapon on the planet opened fire simultaneously. Not at the fleet, but at the flagship where the planet cracker was charging. Thousands of missiles, dozens of particle beams, and every nuclear weapon that could reach orbital distances blazed toward Gorthak's ship. The Admiral watched in growing amazement as the combined firepower of an entire planet focused on his vessel. The shields held, but the sheer intensity of the bombardment was unlike anything in his experience. "Sir, shield generators are operating at maximum capacity. If they maintain this level of fire—" "Impossible," Gorthak growled. "No primitive species has this level of coordination." But even as he spoke, he realized he might be wrong about these humans. Very wrong. The planet cracker weapon discharged with the force of a small star, sending a beam of pure destruction toward Earth's Pacific Ocean. The impact created a crater 50 miles wide and sent tsunamis racing toward coastlines around the world. Millions of tons of water vaporized instantly, and the shock wave was felt on every continent. For a moment, silence fell across the human communication networks. Admiral Gorthak smiled grimly, expecting the inevitable surrender transmissions to begin flooding in. Instead, the first voice that broke the silence belonged to a human military commander whose city had just been hit by the tsunami. "All units, this is General Morrison. We have confirmed hostile action against Earth. Authorization granted for Protocol 7. Repeat, Protocol 7 is now active." Gorthak frowned. "What is Protocol 7? His answer came in the form of massive doors opening across Earth's surface. From hidden silos that the Vorthak sensors had somehow missed, enormous structures began rising. Launch platforms, weapon batteries, and installations that definitely hadn't been there during the initial scans. "Sir, we're reading massive energy signatures from dozens of locations," the tactical officer reported with growing alarm. "These installations are using power sources we didn't detect before." Dr. James Park was standing in the control room of Installation Omega, one of humanity's most closely guarded secrets. For 50 years, Earth's governments had been preparing for this exact scenario. Not just alien contact, but alien invasion. "Fusion reactors at full power," he announced to his team. "Particle acceleration chambers online. Target the lead ship's shield generators." "Doctor, are you sure about this?" Dr. Santos asked. "We've only run computer simulations." "Then let's see if our simulations were accurate," Park replied, his hand hovering over the firing control. "Because if they weren't, we're all dead anyway." The weapon that emerged from Installation Omega was unlike anything the Vorthak had seen. Instead of a simple particle beam, it fired a stream of exotic matter that seemed to bend space itself. The beam struck Gorthak's flagship and simply passed through the shields as if they weren't there. The blast tore through 3 decks of the massive dreadnought before the human operators shut it down. Alarms screamed across the bridge as damage reports flooded in. "Shield generators functioning normally," the tactical officer reported in confusion. "The beam somehow bypassed our defenses entirely." "How is that possible?" Gorthak demanded. More installations were coming online across Earth's surface. The humans had apparently spent decades building a planetary defense network in complete secrecy. But these weren't just weapons. They were technologies that challenged everything the Vorthak thought they knew about physics. In the depths of the Atlantic Ocean, the submarine UES Defiance received new orders. Captain Lisa Hayes stared at the sealed instructions she'd carried for 5 years, never knowing what they contained. "Captain, are you sure about this?" her weapons officer asked. "The orders are clear," Hayes replied. "Deploy the quantum torpedoes." "Ma'am, we don't even know if they'll work." "Then we're about to find out." The Defiance launched 6 torpedoes that immediately vanished from normal space. They reappeared inside the shields of 3 Vorthak destroyers and detonated simultaneously. The exotic matter explosions tore the ships apart from the inside, bypassing every defense the Vorthak possessed. Admiral Gorthak watched 3 more of his ships die in ways that should have been impossible. "Get me a direct link to the Vorthak Science Command. I need to know how a primitive species developed quantum phase technology." But before the link could be established, something even more troubling happened. Human ships began appearing throughout the Sol system. "Sir, we're detecting faster-than-light signatures," his sensor operator reported. "Multiple contacts, approaching from the outer system." "That's impossible. Our intelligence confirmed they don't have FTL capability." The first human ship to decloak was unlike anything in the Vorthak databases. Sleek and angular, it moved with impossible grace for something so large. More ships followed, each one different from the last, as if humanity had developed dozens of different faster-than-light technologies. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Horizon, humanity's first true starship. It had been built in secret over the past 20 years, hidden in the asteroid belt and powered by technologies that Earth's public scientific community didn't even know existed. "Admiral, we have target locks on the entire alien fleet," her tactical officer reported. "Excellent. Open a channel to their flagship." Gorthak found himself staring at a human female in a military uniform. She looked calm and composed, nothing like the terrified primitive he'd expected to face. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Space Force," she said. "You have attacked our homeworld and killed our people. Withdraw immediately, or we will destroy your entire fleet." The audacity of the statement left Gorthak speechless for a moment. "You dare threaten the Vorthak Empire? We rule 400 star systems." "And we rule one," Chen replied. "But it's our one, and we're not giving it up." "Your primitive weapons cannot threaten us," Gorthak snarled, though even as he said it, he knew it wasn't entirely true anymore. "Let me demonstrate something," Chen said calmly. She turned to her tactical officer. "Target their lead destroyer. Singularity torpedo." The UES Horizon fired a single projectile that created a miniature black hole on impact. The Vorthak destroyer simply ceased to exist, crushed out of reality by gravitational forces that shouldn't have been possible to weaponize. "That was our smallest weapon," Chen said conversationally. "Would you like to see our largest?" For the first time in his military career, Admiral Gorthak felt something he'd never experienced before: uncertainty. These humans had somehow developed technologies that rivaled or exceeded Vorthak capabilities. But how? The answer came from an unexpected source. His science officer had been analyzing the quantum signatures of the human weapons and made a disturbing discovery. "Sir, I've identified the source of their advanced technology." "They've been studying us." "What do you mean?" "Our sensor sweeps, our probe signals, our long-range reconnaissance missions. Every time we've scanned this sector over the past 50 years, they were watching, learning. They've reverse-engineered our technology and improved upon it." Gorthak stared at the tactical display showing human ships that could apparently appear and disappear at will, weapons that bypassed Vorthak defenses, and defensive systems that seemed to learn and adapt in real time. "Sir, we need to withdraw and request reinforcements," his tactical officer urged. "Withdraw?" Gorthak's pride warred with his tactical sense. "The Vorthak Empire doesn't withdraw from primitive worlds. With respect, sir, these humans aren't primitive. On Earth's surface, the response to the alien attack was unlike anything in human history. Every nation, every military force, every government that had been in conflict just hours before was now working together with perfect coordination. In the war room beneath Geneva, representatives from every Earth nation were coordinating their response. The Chinese premier was sharing classified military technology with American generals. Russian scientists were collaborating with their former enemies on weapon modifications. African nations were providing rare materials for exotic weapon construction. "The aliens expected us to surrender," General Morrison announced to the assembled leaders. "They didn't expect us to fight, but more importantly, they didn't expect us to fight together." "How long can we maintain this united front?" asked the European Federation representative. "As long as it takes," replied the President of the United States. "We can go back to arguing about borders and trade deals after we deal with the species that wants to turn us all into slaves." Above the planet, Admiral Chen was receiving reports from human ships throughout the Sol system. The secret fleet that Earth had been building wasn't just hidden from alien detection. It had been designed specifically to counter the technologies they'd observed from Vorthak probe missions. "Admiral, we have confirmed kills on 7 enemy vessels," her tactical officer reported. "Their remaining ships are pulling back to a defensive formation." "They're learning that we're not as primitive as they thought," Chen observed, "but they still outnumber us. Time for the next phase. She opened a channel to Earth. Dr. Park, are you ready to deploy the Aurora Protocol? In Installation Omega, Dr. Park was making final adjustments to humanity's most ambitious defensive system. Aurora Protocol ready for deployment, Admiral. But I should warn you, we've never tested this at full scale. Do it. Across Earth's surface, hundreds of hidden installations activated simultaneously. The planet itself became a massive weapon as coordinated energy fields created a defensive barrier that extended into space. Any Vorthak ship that approached Earth would find itself facing the combined defensive power of an entire world. Admiral Gorthak watched his sensors as the human homeworld suddenly blazed with energy signatures that dwarfed anything his fleet could generate. How is this possible? How does a single planet have this much power? His science officer was frantically analyzing the readings. Sir, they're drawing power directly from their planet's core. They've somehow tapped into geothermal energy on a global scale and focused it into a defensive grid. That level of engineering should take centuries to develop. Unless they've been working on it specifically to counter our technology, the science officer replied quietly. The truth was becoming clear. Humanity hadn't been caught off guard by the Vorthak arrival. They'd been preparing for it. Every probe mission, every long-range scan, every piece of intelligence the Vorthak had gathered about humanity had been noticed, studied, and used against them. Sir, we're receiving another transmission from the human admiral. Admiral Chen's face appeared on the screen again, still calm and composed despite the massive battle raging around her planet. Admiral Gorthak, I'm going to make you an offer. Withdraw your fleet from our system, and we'll let you leave. Continue this attack, and we'll destroy every ship you have and send the wreckage back to your empire as a message. You cannot threaten the Vorthak Empire, Gorthak roared, but his voice lacked its earlier confidence. We're not threatening your empire, Chen replied. We're threatening you, your fleet, right here, right now. You've seen our capabilities. You know we can make good on this promise. Gorthak looked around his bridge at officers who were no longer certain of victory. His fleet had come to conquer a primitive world and found themselves facing an enemy that had been preparing for this exact confrontation for decades. But the Vorthak Empire's reputation was built on never backing down, never showing weakness. If he withdrew now, word would spread throughout the galaxy that the mighty Vorthak had been turned away by a single planet. Prepare all ships for maximum assault, he ordered. We'll show these humans what real power looks like. It was a decision he would soon regret. The Vorthak fleet's final assault began with everything they had. 50 dreadnoughts opened fire simultaneously, their combined firepower capable of sterilizing entire continents. Planet cracker weapons charged to maximum power, while smaller vessels launched clouds of fusion missiles. It was the kind of devastating attack that had brought down countless civilizations across the galaxy. Earth's response was immediate and overwhelming. The Aurora Protocol activated at full capacity, creating defensive fields that turned incoming Vorthak fire into harmless light shows. Quantum interceptor networks destroyed missiles before they could reach the atmosphere. And from the planet's surface, weapons that defied known physics reached out to touch the alien fleet with annihilating force. Admiral Gorthak watched in growing horror as his most powerful weapons simply vanished against Earth's defenses. How are they doing this? How are they stopping planet cracker weapons? Dr. Park's voice echoed across the Vorthak communication channels as he broadcast on all frequencies. Your weapons work by exciting planetary matter to critical resonance. Our defensive grid generates counter-resonance fields that nullify that effect. We've known about your technology for 50 years. Did you really think we wouldn't develop countermeasures? The revelation hit Gorthak like a physical blow. The humans had been watching the Vorthak Empire for decades, learning from every probe mission and reconnaissance flight. They'd built their entire defensive strategy around Vorthak weaknesses. But the real shock came when Admiral Chen's fleet began their counterattack. The UES Horizon and its sister ships moved through space with impossible agility, their quantum drives allowing them to appear and disappear at will. Human torpedoes passed through Vorthak's shields like they weren't there, while particle beams carved through armor that should have been impenetrable. "Sir, we've lost 15 ships in the last 10 minutes, Vorthak's tactical officer reported. Their weapons are specifically designed to counter our defensive systems. All ships, fall back to long-range engagement, Vorthak ordered. We'll bombard them from a distance they can't reach. The order had barely been given when human ships began appearing throughout his formation. The quantum drives didn't just allow faster-than-light travel, they allowed instantaneous repositioning anywhere within a star system. The UES Retribution materialized directly behind Vorthak's flagship and fired a full spread of exotic matter torpedoes. The explosions tore through the mighty dreadnought's rear shields and crippled its main engines. More human ships appeared among the Vorthak fleet, turning the space battle into close-range chaos where the aliens' advantages in size and firepower meant nothing. Captain Elena Rodriguez of the UES Victory found herself facing 3 Vorthak destroyers at point-blank range. Instead of retreating, she smiled grimly and opened fire with weapons that had been designed specifically for this moment. "Target their fusion cores," she ordered. "Quantum penetrator rounds." The Victory's weapons fired projectiles that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. They passed through solid matter until they reached their target, then snapped back into normal space and exploded. All 3 Vorthak destroyers died in the same instant as their power cores went critical. "This is impossible," Admiral Vorthak muttered as he watched his fleet being systematically destroyed by ships that shouldn't exist. How did they develop this technology so quickly? The answer came from an unexpected source. His communication officer had been monitoring human military frequencies and picked up a transmission from Earth. "Sir, you need to hear this." The voice belonged to an elderly human scientist speaking to his research team. "Remember, people, we've been preparing for this day since 1952. Every probe contact, every sensor sweep, every piece of alien technology we could detect. 3 generations of Earth's brightest minds have been working on this moment. Today we find out if it was enough." 1952. The humans had been preparing for alien contact for over 70 years. They'd built their entire technological development around the assumption that hostile aliens would eventually arrive. "Sir, incoming priority transmission from Vorthak High Command," the communications officer announced. Emperor Zexthai's image appeared on the screen, his 4 arms gesturing angrily. "Admiral Vorthak, what is your status? Our long-range sensors show massive energy signatures from your location." "My lord, the humans are not what we expected. They've been preparing for our arrival for decades. Their technology rivals our own." "Impossible. Destroy them immediately." "My lord, I've lost over half my fleet. Their weapons seem specifically designed to counter ours. I request immediate reinforcements." The Emperor's red eyes blazed with fury. "The Vorthak Empire doesn't request help to conquer a single primitive planet. Destroy them or I'll have you executed for cowardice." The transmission cut off, leaving Vorthak to face the reality of his situation. His fleet was being destroyed by humans who had turned their entire planet into a fortress. But the Emperor's threats meant retreat wasn't an option. "All remaining ships, concentrate fire on their planet," he ordered desperately. "If we can't defeat their fleet, we'll crack their world." It was his final mistake. The moment every Vorthak weapon focused on Earth, Admiral Chen sprung her trap. Hidden throughout the Sol system, automated defense platforms that had been waiting in silent darkness suddenly came to life. Hundreds of them, each one armed with weapons that made the human fleet look primitive. The platforms had been built using technology reverse-engineered from Vorthak probe missions, then improved by human engineering. They fired in perfect coordination, creating a crossfire pattern that no ship could escape. Vorthak's remaining dreadnoughts died in a storm of exotic energy and quantum fire. The mighty Vorthak fleet that had conquered hundreds of worlds was reduced to floating debris in less than 30 minutes. The admiral found himself alone on a crippled flagship, surrounded by human ships that could destroy him at any moment. His bridge crew was dead, his weapons were offline, and his shields were failing. Admiral Chen's voice filled his bridge through the emergency communication system. "Admiral Vorthak, this is your final warning. Surrender now or die with your ship." For a moment, Vorthak considered choosing death over the shame of surrender, but as he looked at the tactical display showing the complete destruction of his fleet, he realized something important. The humans had just demonstrated that they could destroy Vorthak ships at will, but they were offering him a chance to live. "I surrender," he said quietly. "Wise choice. Prepare to be boarded." The human boarding party was led by General Morrison himself. The humans who stepped onto Vorthak's bridge were calm and professional, treating their defeated enemy with more respect than the Vorthak had ever shown to conquered species. "Admiral Vorthak," Morrison said formally, "you and your surviving crew are now prisoners of war. You'll be treated according to the Geneva Convention and interstellar law." "Interstellar law?" Vorthak was confused. "You're a single-planet species." "Not anymore," Morrison replied with a slight smile. "As of today, humanity is a spacefaring civilization, and we take the laws of war very seriously." Over the following hours, Vorthak learned things about humanity that completely changed his understanding of the species. They had indeed been watching the Vorthak Empire for decades, but not just to build weapons. They'd been studying Vorthak culture, psychology, and military doctrine. Dr. Amanda Foster, Earth's leading expert on Vorthak behavior, interviewed Vorthak personally. "We know your empire rules through fear," she said. "You conquer species by demonstrating overwhelming force, then offering them the choice between death and slavery." "That is how conquest works," Vorthak replied. "Not for us. We learned from studying your methods. But we chose a different path. Humanity doesn't want to rule other species. We just want to be left alone to develop in peace." "Then why build such powerful weapons?" "Because we knew that someday someone like you would arrive. Someone who saw our independence as a threat to their power." The interrogation revealed something that shocked the Vorthak admiral. Humanity had known about the Vorthak Empire's expansion for decades, but they'd never attempted to make contact or seek protection from other species. Instead, they'd chosen to prepare for the inevitable confrontation. "You could have surrendered immediately," Vorthak pointed out. "Your casualties would have been minimal. And spend the rest of our existence as slaves to your empire?" Dr. Foster shook her head. "That's not who we are. Humans have a saying, 'Give me liberty,' or 'give me death.' We mean it." Meanwhile, Admiral Chen was dealing with the aftermath of humanity's first space battle. Earth's hidden fleet had performed flawlessly, but the cost had been significant. 3 human ships had been destroyed, and over 200 crew members had died defending their home world. "Admiral, we're receiving communications from across the galaxy," her communications officer reported. "Word about the battle is spreading." "From who?" "Species under Vorthak control, mostly. They want to know if the reports are true. Did we really defeat a Vorthak fleet?" Chen considered the implications. The Vorthak Empire's power was built on the belief that they were invincible. If word spread that a single human planet had destroyed an entire Vorthak fleet, it could trigger rebellions across the galaxy. "Confirm the reports," she decided. "Let them know that the Vorthak Empire can be defeated." The decision would change galactic history. Within days, uprisings began on dozens of Vorthak-controlled worlds. Species that had accepted slavery for generations suddenly found the courage to fight back. The news that humans had not only survived a Vorthak attack but completely destroyed the invading fleet spread like wildfire across interstellar communication networks. Emperor Zexthai found himself facing the greatest crisis in Vorthak history, not just because he'd lost a fleet to a primitive species, but because that loss had inspired rebellions throughout his empire. "My lord, we must respond immediately," War Commander Vekthar urged. "If we don't crush these humans quickly, the entire empire could collapse." "Prepare the Grand Fleet," Zexthai ordered. "Every ship, every warrior. We'll turn their entire system into debris." But as the Emperor made plans for revenge, Admiral Gorthak was providing Earth's military with detailed intelligence about Vorthak technology, tactics, and the location of every major fleet base in the Empire. He'd come to understand that humanity represented something new in the galaxy, a species that fought not to conquer, but to remain free. Dr. Foster had one final question for the captured Vorthak admiral. "If you could do it over again, would you still attack Earth?" Gorthak thought carefully before answering. "No. Your species is unlike anything we've encountered. You don't fight like other civilizations. You fight like—" He paused, searching for the right word. "Like humans," Dr. Foster finished. "Yes, and that makes you the most dangerous species in the galaxy." As Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Horizon, watching human ships patrol the Sol system, she knew this was only the beginning. The Vorthak Empire would return with greater force, and other hostile species would take notice of humanity's capabilities. But Earth was ready. 70 years of preparation had taught humanity an important lesson. In a galaxy full of predators, the best defense was to become something even more formidable. The galaxy's most terrifying species had finally met their match, and for the first time in 3,000 years, the Vorthak Empire would learn what it felt like to be afraid.